Good evening. I got to deviate from script right away because I'm totally impressed with the kids that preceded me, so I feel like I'm going to be going downhill from here after. So the good thing about it, to look at it, is to know that our youth out there are still there and ready to roll. So thank you very much. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming tonight out to support our viewpoint that our government is not meeting the constitutional needs of our people. Lest I forget, I also want to thank Meg Ellefson and the many others, as you can look around the room, who have poured their hearts into this tea party. Thank you very much. It is indeed a pleasure to be here tonight in the company of such honorable Americans. From a historical perspective, it has been almost 237 years since our namesake, the Boston Tea Party, has occurred. Yet many of our fellow countrymen seem to have forgotten the importance of just such an event, which basically was the principle of taxation without elected representation. Yes, true, today we have our own elected representatives, but are they representing us? This gathering today, as you just noticed, indicates they are not. To demonstrate this principle, it was also just 1 year ago that Somalia pirates attacked a U.S. merchant ship and captured Captain Richard Phillips. Just days later, the U.S. military rescued Captain Phillips from his life-threatening experience. Initially, it was believed that the president had authorized attacks against the Somali pirates. As you will see, in reality, the president had authorized a tax on those pirates. Okay. Okay, so that may not be reality, but it does reflect a degree of truth, as all good humor does. Washington believes our solution is to tax and spend. I ask any one of you a simple question. Who has ever talked to a financial advisor, and that financial advisor has then turned around and said, you know, the best way to reduce our debt is to take other people's money, not our own, yours, not mine, and then let's spend more than we actually have. Is that the way to get out of debt? No. Not surprising, Americans are now experiencing the fastest increase in governmental debt and tax increasing we have ever seen for our spending. We, you and me, generally do not believe the government is doing what we want it to do. President Thomas Jefferson, considered by many to be one of our greatest thinkers in American history, puts this travesty of justice into great perspective. I quote, "To compel a man to subsidize with his taxes the propagation of ideas which he disbelieves and abhors is sinful and tyrannical. Our own representatives are running counter to what our forefathers believed, and yet they claim they're in line with the Constitution." Do you endorse the $825 billion at one end or the $700 billion based on the speakers today stimulus plan? Or is that against your wishes? How's it working for you, by the way? Yes, many of our currently elected politicians claim that they are trying to interpret the Constitution. We all do. And they try to interpret as our great forefathers did. What series of writings by our forefathers are they reading, I ask you? Most of what I hear from the politicians does not derive from what I have personally read by our forefathers. These government officials who continue to believe and state that they are doing it for my good are just simply out of control. Do you believe that we are doing what we are doing is really for our good? Let's highlight this just a little bit. Let's take down a history lesson. I am a professor, so I do that occasionally. Does anyone out there, anyone, remember why the Department of Energy was established during Carter's administration? There you go. The Department of Energy was instituted August 4th, 1977, to lessen our dependence on foreign oil. And now, 2010, almost 33 years later, this is the efficiency of the government, the budget for this necessary department is about $24 billion. They have 16,000 federal employees and approximately 100,000 contract employees. How's that for foreign dependency? By the way, don't think for a minute that $1 billion is not much. That's just 1 billion minutes ago. Jesus walked the earth. I would say that this is a pretty substantial number myself. So when they're talking billions, it's not something to scoff at. Oh, did I say Jesus? I'm sorry. My apologies. Wait, this is America. And for my First Amendment rights, again and again and again, I can state that. At least, that's how I read the Constitution. Which brings me to why am I standing here? First of all, I did not necessarily volunteer to do this. I got volunteered by students. And I asked him if I could use his name, so I will, Patrick Keston. He asked, Meg Ellefson went to Patrick and they were talking. He says, well, I got someone to come and talk for you. And the reason I chose to do it, because Patrick relays a story and I relay it all the time. I am continually challenged at a university because of my, let's say, less than liberal stances. Okay? They knew who they were getting. I was a 21-year veteran. They didn't figure that one out. They're pretty slow to start with. Anyway, in the discussion, I get students that come up regularly, and it's quite often someone who doesn't necessarily share the political points of view because, of course, they know it all. And so I get in debates with them. They start talking. I let them ramble and roll, and I hear about, you know, we have freedom from a religion, we have this or that, and immediately you always inevitably hear those three words. At least to them it's three. To me it's five, but you know, they're liberals. They don't count all the words. Separation of church and state. It is not in the Constitution, people. Never has been. So after they've hung themselves, as a good, respectful professor, I reach into my, now it's my right-hand drawer, I open it up, and I pull out the Constitution of the United States. And I go to what they don't know, Amendment 1, and it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion. It doesn't say the abolishment of a religion, it says the establishment. We're not going to endorse a religion. But then it goes on and says, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We have a freedom of religion, not from religion. And that needs to be emphasized. There's probably no legal scholar in the nation that would argue Congress doesn't have a right to tax us. They do. It's in the Constitution. But do they have a right to tax us on everything we do? Do they have a right to restrict our freedom? Well, the best example of how much taxes were occurring really comes from the discussion with my two daughters. I love my daughters dearly. They make the world to me. They've all left home. One's down in Madison. But my youngest daughter decided to go to work. Dad, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to get a job. Well, good for you, dear. Until that first paycheck came.